I talk like this. Welcome to the Pearlii Podcast. Okay, here we are for another episode of the Pearlii Show. We've got a left field guest, one of my favourite guests on the Pearlii Show, Dr. JJ Aucouturier. I don't think I've ever got his name right. JJ, welcome again.
Hi, welcome. Very happy to be here again.
Okay, I know you have a PhD in computer science. You don't
That's
call
right.
yourself a DevOps. So you're the person to ask anything about tech and how tech is messing with audio. Can you tell us a little bit about your research?
Yeah, I've kind of changed lives in the middle, but I was educated in computer science to do audio signal processing and audio technologies. But for the past 10, 15 years, I've been using it to do biological research, actually, to do research into how our normal human voice produces emotions. But they're very closely related, because if you want to, test the effect of certain voice parameters on listeners, for instance, if I raise my pitch, will people think I'm happier or sadder? One great way to do this in an experiment is to actually record someone and to manipulate the sound of their voice artificially with algorithms. So we can really test, if I raise the pitch by 10%, 20%, 30%, what impact does that have on the listeners? If you ask an actor to do this, can you raise your pitch by 27%? They're going to be like, it's complicated to have complete control on that, right? Right. With technology now, we can have nearly parametric, control on the parameters of the voice. So we use a lot of voice transformation algorithms and we design our own when there's no such thing on the market, to do our experiments. First to test the impact of these parameters on listeners, but also we do a lot of research on how that pans out in real interactions. For instance, we do experiments with two people, like what we're doing now, talking to each other, and both are participants in experiments, and they don't know that, but the experimentators, us, in the background, are messing with their voice in real time to try to see, if I suddenly start talking higher and you start talking lower, what's going on with our interaction? Does it break down? Do we have a laugh? Do we, like each other better or worse in the end? So we do a lot of stuff like that involves real-time vocal transformations.
All right. Well, I used to be an academic. So can you give us a few examples or applications from your research?
Right. So one thing we've worked on this past few years was the sound of smiling, for instance. I think we said something about this last time, but if you smile, you stretch the corner of your lips and you can hear it on the phone, even if you don't see people. That has a consequence on people's voice, right? It makes their voice sounds a bit brighter. If I go, you can actually, it's the same pitch, the same note, same sound, but it actually changes what we call the timbre of that sound. So a bit darker, a bit brighter. So on the phone, people in call centers, they instructed all the time, all day long, to talk to people like this, because, it communicates something positive to the clients.
Oh, wow. So it's a sales trick.
Right. Smiling down the phone is really good. It's part of the manual in the call centers. It's actually quite, it's actually quite straining on the people, because smiling on demand 8 hours a day is actually
it would bloody hurt.
Some work. Yeah, absolutely, and emotional fatigue as well. That trying to be nice to people all day long is quite something. So we've designed a tool which is a real-time voice transformation that can make your voice smileier on demand. Basically, it's basically the smile button like this.
That's a great startup idea.
A bit like what you have in Instagram filters, where you can have people smile. On Zoom, I can pretend to be smiling with a filter. You can do this on voice as well, and we've used this for quite a few experiments. It's quite fun. So one thing we tried, for instance, is to see what impact the sound of smiling has on the people who listen. And so we had recorded sentences and we manipulated the level of smiling in them. So it doesn't change the words, it doesn't change the pitch. If you recall, pitch has nothing to do with smiling. Like C sharp, you hold the note, same pitch. It's just the timbre of the note that changes and not the height. So we manipulated the sentence with this transformation. And we had people listen to these sentences with and without smile. And we put facial EMG electromyography as electrical electrodes that will pick the electric activity from the muscles of their face. And we found that when you listen to someone smiling, you will mimic the smile on your own face, even though you can't see it. There's electrical activity in your zygomatic muscles here that tell you that, when we increase the smile in the sound you're hearing, your muscles will follow that. And it's an unconscious reaction. So it's quite fun. Actually, when you hear someone smiling on the phone, say, you will start smiling. At least your brain picks that up and sends signals to your face to imitate this. Plausibly, they will turn you into a better mood as well, or you will, more empathy with the speaker. So it has a deep effect on us. It's really interesting, such a small thing.
JJ, I love the mouth. Like, we're all about the mouth here, voice, breathing, teeth, tongue. Anything here, we're into it. But the commercialization of that research, I'm not sure if your university's supporting you there, but that sounds like it's got a lot of potential.
It's totally on track. We actually have started a company to try to look at potential market uses of technologies like this that is able to transform the sound of your voice in real time to help, kind of augment the values of conversations in business situations, for instance, but also all sorts of situations. One thing we are looking at, for instance, is helping people who speak with speech synthesizers. People who had sclerose latérale amyotrophique, so ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. I have to translate this from French. Stephen Hawking, basically, people who lost the motor control on their voice, and so they speak with a speech box, basically. And whether they're happy or sad, they're like, "Hey, I am having the best day of my life," is all they can get out because the synthesizer is completely neutral. And so being able to say this with a smiley, with an emoticon that say this happily or say this sadly, could help how these people can interact with their families and caregivers. So we are looking at different ways, and the call center industry is one of them, of course, as well.
All right, just one last question. I was reading up in your research, and I read about a happy and sad button on your phone, and I think when you call emergency services, or you can also make your voice deeper, and you're more likely to get someone come out for the emergency. Can you tell us about those two applications?
So our research in the lab shows that really voice has a tremendous impact on people when you listen to making a voice slightly higher, slightly lower, slightly deeper like this, or more shallower and more brittle will change a lot how people react to you, change their behavior. So we found in conscious reactions, people will smile if we put a little bit of smile on your voice, but we've found things that are way more extreme. So, for instance, in a simulated 911 type of medical triage, where you call for an emergency, you call on emergency medical services, and if we had fake patients call a simulated environment with real doctors training to do medical triage, and with the same exact medical conditions, whether the people calling has a big voice like this, or calls with a more brittle, kind of voice, they don't get the same service. Some people get sent the helicopter and the van and all of that, and some other people get sent to consult their GP the next day, basically. And so it has, possibly life-changing consequences. And it's interesting. I mean, it's important to think that now we have the technology to simulate all of these parameters in real time, without anybody noticing. We're in an era of deep fakes and all of that. And we have a very, right now, you can't trust the sound of my voice. Actually, I could be speaking with a voice changer and you'd have no idea. I could be, I could be a woman for all with a zoom filter, a face filter, and a voice filter. You have no idea if this is really me or if I'm really talking like this. So as the scientific knowledge, we get better understanding about what parameters to change to get what type of effect, on the other side. It's really important as a society to think about this. First, it exists. There's wonderful applications for this, but we have to start a conversation about the ethics of all that as well.
Wow. JJ, thank you so much for coming on the show. Our listeners, we're really lucky to have someone of your caliber speak to us.
It's a pleasure.
It's bloody interesting research. There's so many different areas you could take this. For our listeners at home, as always, thank you for listening. Please follow us on socials, download the Pearlii app, and catch the next episode. JJ, thanks again, mate.
Thanks.